joining. I'll pass it over to Vicki.
So hi, I'm Vicki, and this is my capstone topic. So I will be talking about the urban forest changes in the Annex neighborhood. And so I will go through the background and methodology of this project, and then give relevant recommendations at the end based on the discussion of the project findings. So first of all, it is important to know what urban forest is. And urban forest is commonly regarded as aggregates of trees and shrubs within an urban area. That means all trees that are within the city's boundaries, either in the recreational paths, along streets, residential areas, are all considered as urban forests. They provide various benefits and functions to the natural environment and social well-being, which include aesthetic values, improving human health, mitigating urban environment, and reducing energy costs, etc. But however, there are a few concerns that threaten Toronto's urban forests. For example, development pressures increase with construction of new infrastructure that put more stresses to the surrounding environment, heavy metal contamination of urban soils, declining number of native tree species since tree selection is mostly reliant on non-native species, growing diseases which are caused by invasive insects and pathogens such as European gypsy moth. Land ownership of urban trees tends to be mainly in private lands, which makes tree management more difficult, and decreasing canopy. So in the light of these challenges, a strategic forest management plan is established by the City of Toronto, aiming to tackle these problems mainly in 4 aspects. So 2 of them are promoting stewardship, collaborate with neighboring communities, and reinforce urban forest monitoring. So these 2 strategies in the meantime serve as the foundations and the main focus for this project. So the study area of this project is the Annex neighborhood. It is situated in downtown Toronto, just next to U of T campus actually. And the sampling area of this project will focus on a part of the neighborhood, which is spanned by the Canadian Pacific Railway, Bloor Street West, Barford Street, and the Howland Avenue. So this neighborhood has a long history. That settlement began back in the 1790s, and until today, the area is still covered by an expansive tree canopy, largely composed of trees planted in the early 1900s. So, for example, we can find out that there are still some trees standing as of today from 1967 to 2021. And this is even older from 1957 to 2021. And the sampling area is diversely demarcated into land parcels based on the property ownership. And you could see from the figure that most of the area, most of the land uses are residential areas, meaning the private ownerships are way more than the public land. And the rest of them are some major streets, public parks, and school. So data will then collect in each parcel. So here comes the reasons why this project works on urban forest monitoring and why the Annex neighborhood is the target. So because urban forest monitoring is especially important in determining changes and trends in urban forests, such as the abundances of urban trees, their health conditions, growth, mortality rates, and therefore help to provide a baseline condition to forecast the potential deterioration. So these measurements can further support management and planning of future tree planting. And in addition, the Annex neighborhood is chosen because the project can help engaging the community and the residents as outlined in the city's strategic forest management plan. And also because the Annex has conducted a baseline urban forest inventory back in 2011, so we can utilize such information plus the inventory data collected in 2022 to further develop a community-based urban forest stewardship program. So during the data collection process, a community-based tree inventory monitoring and stewardship program called Neighborhoods were utilized. So the program was started 27 years ago in 1995, and it is widely adopted not just across Ontario, but also in other places. So it is responsible of conducting tree inventory, data analysis, and informed management planning based on the findings. So overall, this project aims at measuring the urban forest changes in the Annex neighborhood based on the 2011 and 2022 tree inventory data collected following the neighborhoods protocol. And both time periods data will be compared to find out any similarities or dissimilarities. And these relevant changes will be mapped and spatially visualized for easy interpretation. So the first step of starting the project was to use the neighborhoods tree inventory data collected in 2011 to resample previously sampled trees in the area. So this include remeasuring the tree height, crown width, diameter at breast height, and etc. So in the meantime, reassessment was conducted for every tree to evaluate their tree health and the structural stability. And we also record down if there were any significant defects found on site. And next, several parameters were developed for both years to assess biodiversity and the species composition at parcel and the community level. So they are the total number of trees, importance value index, which measures native, non-native, and invasive species separately. Our diversity indexes, which include the species richness, Shannon-Whalen index, species evenness index, and finally, the urban forest changes represented by average DBH, basal area, and the canopy cover. So here comes the very first piece of results of this project. So it is found out that there is a net loss of tree because in 2011, there were around 1,900 trees in the annex. But in 2022, trees that are managed to survive and remain on site dropped to around 1,300. Even new trees and trees that were found unsurveyed back in 2011 were counted. The total number of trees in 2022 still do not exceed its counterpart in the past. The removal rate is calculated as roughly 5 trees per year, and most of the removed trees were small to middle-sized trees. But however, it is also noticeable that there is a high number in large tree removals. And next, it is also found out that there is a decreasing trend in average number of trees per parcel. And from the figure, where the red and pink color represent decreasing number of trees, obviously occupy most of the parcels in the Annex neighborhood. And yeah, so this is the results by measuring the importance value index to find out how dominant a species is in a given forest area. As expected, Acer species dominates in both time periods and both community and parcel level as reflected by their high importance value index. It is also noticeable that there is an increasing trend in the IVI for the non-native species. As we could see, they have relatively larger positive percentage change from 2011 to 2022. And in terms of our diversity index, it is observed that all 3 indexes increase at community level, although all of them are in small degrees. And at parcel level, only species richness increases in 2022 and the rest of them decrease. And next, we found out that the average basal area and DBH all increase at community level, with a rate of increase around 24 centimeters square per year. And they have the same increasing trend as well at parcel level. But unfortunately, the canopy cover at both community and parcel level all decreases from 2011 to 2022. And from the figure, we can see that the parcels that experience decreasing canopy cover are represented in red and pink color, and their numbers are slightly higher than parcels with positive gain in canopy cover. So what makes these changes? So first of all, it is likely that ownership fragmentation causes net loss of trees in the annex, because it will cause competition in growing spaces, and hence urban trees are experiencing more severe disturbances and stresses than before. It is also possibly due to increasing development pressures, such as more renovations of houses in the community, and such construction work usually removes all trees at their backyards and front yards, and therefore leading to decreasing tree canopy cover at the same time. And changing climates is also one of the reasons that causes decreasing tree number and canopy cover. So at normal weather events such as ice storm in Toronto back in 2013 caused lots of tree failures at the time, as seen from the picture. But the good news is, as reflected by increasing alpha diversity index, it is possible that there are species introduction led by local residents, because we found out that there are some new species in the community which did not exist in the past. Examples include the paperbark maple, white finch tree, and cucumber tree. Although there are new species introduction, the increasing importance value in the non-native species still tell a story that number of non-native species are increasing. So in fact, there is a declining trend in native species, that one species is lost, and there are 177 native trees removed as found in 2022. And meanwhile, there are 5 new non-native species found in the community. So therefore, the increase in non-native species is a possible cause to higher importance value in non-native trees in the annex. And for the increasing basal area and DBH, it is straightforward that they are due to growth of surviving trees from the past and the newly planted trees. But it is notable that although there is increase in the basal area, there is still a decrease in canopy cover. So it is very likely that because there are 104 trees removed, which have over 30 centimeter DBH from 2011 to 2022, and it is usually assumed that large trees will have larger canopy. So it is regarded that growth of surviving trees and the plantation of new trees cannot compensate the loss of canopy cover left by tree removals. So based on the findings, there are some recommendations to improve the current situation. So it is essential to develop a sustainable urban forest stewardship in the Annex neighborhood by promoting diverse species in the communities through strategic planting and education. And it is also important to preserve surviving trees through tree protection and regular tree maintenance. Since surviving trees contribute a great part in the canopy cover. And lastly, tree monitoring has to be kept for detection and understanding urban forest changes, which help inform the stewardship. So this is the end of my presentation, and I would like to pay gratitude to the following people. So Dr. Danijela for being my academic supervisor, giving me lots of guidance through the journey of doing this capstone project, and the Neighborhoods program, which is developed by Dr. Kenny and Danijela, and Terri from the Annex Residents Association. Without you, the capstone would never be possible. Lucy and all students who assist in tree infantry survey, it's been happy to work along with you. And last but not least, all residents in the Annex neighborhood who were being so nice to us when we did our infantry in the summer. So thank you, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Jessie. I'm going to pass the mic to Terri to ask a question.
Great job, Vicki. So my first question is probably a little hard. So the annex is bounded, or there are 3 subway stops in the annex area. And yeah, environmentally speaking, we should be dumping in housing in this area as much as possible, and high density housing. And that's for the environment, that's for our housing supplies. There's lots and lots of reasons to do that. And there's no excuse not to. There's so much transit here. What, in your view, is the right balance between the loss of trees that are going to be absolutely inevitable and the need for housing, which I know you didn't really look at, but I'm just asking on a philosophical because we will be losing trees. What would you tell people in the annex area, and how would you like to see that balanced based on the work that you've done and the tree loss that you've seen?
Oh, well, I would recommend the local residents to keep on planting more trees at their backyard, although development is important in nowadays, but it's still important to take green spaces into account, because this has lots of benefits to just what I mentioned in the slides. So it's important to keep green spaces in your backyard or even the front yard, and keep communicating with other residents in the community. So this is yeah, I would say this is so although I know that there is a trend that the total number of trees is decreasing, but I think there is a way to stop this trend and keep on planting more trees in the area.
Yeah, go ahead.
And based on your findings, how would you use this information to create, say, a 20 or 30-year planting schedule to have maximum canopy coverage for as long as possible?
Oh, well, actually, because I didn't mention in the slides, actually the current canopy cover is around 22%. And because the city of Toronto, they aimed at achieving the canopy cover percentage at 40%. So I think that would be important to implement a community stewardship program to encourage the people to plant more trees that would have potential to grow a bigger canopy cover. So yeah, so we can design a program that lasts for 10 years or even 20 years to motivate the residents to plant different tree species which have larger canopy cover, and we can have program to let them know how to keep the trees to be healthy so that they can last for even longer than 20 years of the program time frame. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Danijela. So I'll build again on Terry's question about development. It's happening, and we know the change in provincial policy and what's going on. More housing, less trees. There is no doubt about that. My question to you is, how would you use this information to set priority, let's say, for a future development, or to say maybe in these areas we shouldn't be making more buildings because we have enough trees. So move outside of stewardship, move outside of tree maintenance, and get into land use planning. What's your feeling? Would you be able, for us or for Terri and her community, how to use this information to inform land use planning? Just your idea, just as I said, going outside of the box and the usual objectives.
Well, I think that this project can be further developed to look at the tree density of each parcels, and we can spot out which parcel or which private land they have lower tree density, so we can have some suggestion or community program to approach them, to encourage them to try to increase their tree density at their backyard. And we can also inform the government, because we have some public lands of the streets and the major public parks. So we can let the government knows that there is potential in planting more trees on the street or even on the public parks. So that will be useful to help the community to increase their tree canopy cover in the future. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I guess the first step is to analyze the tree density of the area and find out which area has a way lower number of trees or tree density. Yeah.
Okay, so my other question is, your results show that, yeah, there is decline in trees. Though we gain some dBH in terms of growth, we are still losing the canopy. And you mentioned that why that is the case. Could you explain that again?
Yeah. So so we found out that the basal area and so the basal area and dBH, they increase because we have trees in the past and they keep growing until today. And yeah, for sure, their basal area and the dBH will increase. So besides cutting down the trees, those surviving trees, they still contribute large part to the positive change in the basal area and the dBH. But because, yeah, so as I mentioned that because there are some major large tree removals, so we have 104 trees. So it's around 9 trees removed per year. So because those trees, they usually they have a great larger canopy cover. So if we remove them, then their canopy cover decrease. So that means that the tree removal of those large trees, the canopy cover decrease. And even if you plant more trees, because if you plant trees, those trees, they are usually just small to middle-sized trees, so they don't have much to contribute to the positive change in canopy cover. So that's why in general, we combine all the data together and still we find that the canopy cover decreases in general.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any virtual questions, Laura? Okay. Okay. Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. Good presentation. Lots of really interesting stuff here. I'm just at the outset, I'm not a big fan of canopy cover as a measure. It's used far too much. Could you tell me how you calculated or estimated canopy cover in your study?
Oh, actually, I use the software of ArcGIS, and because I have the inventory data of each tree canopy, the crown width, and then in the ArcGIS, I just buffer the canopy cover, and then I calculate the overall area. So that's why I can get the canopy cover, and because I know the area of the Annex neighborhood, so by calculation I can get the percentage of canopy cover. Yeah.
Okay, so it's based on crown diameter or crown width, as opposed. I think you might be better to call that crown projection area rather than canopy cover. Canopy cover is usually calculated from aerial photography or things like that, whereas the crown projection area from the individual tree inventories is I think a little bit more precise. You also mentioned that the city had this canopy cover target of 40% and the Annex is currently 20%. Do you think the Annex could support 40%?
Well, it really depends on how we implement future stewardship program in the community. So if we are successful in encouraging people to grow more trees and help to preserve the the surviving trees, I believe that it would be possible to achieve 40% in the future. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's assume that every landowner, every property owner in the annex is keen to plant big trees. Do you think that the urban structure in the annex could support 40%? Is there enough room to support 40%?
Well, actually yeah, so based on the map I showed in the presentation, actually, each parcel, they are demarcated into many pieces of parcels. So actually, we have 515 parcels in the sampling area. So yeah, so as you said, so this there is a huge competition of the growing spaces between each parcels. So yeah, so it might be not supportive to achieve 40% canopy cover, but I believe that if we have a good planning, land use planning to grow the trees in the community, so it's not really hard to achieve 40%. Even in some cities with which is highly dense populated, they can also achieve canopy cover like up to 35 or even higher. So it's not that too difficult to achieve that.
Okay, I'm encouraged by your optimism. Thank you very much. It's valuable these days. Thanks very much. Great presentation.
Thank you.